Hi, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Caffeinated Crimes.
Here we are, another week here at towards the end of the summer, almost the end of the summer when you guys are hearing this, gearing up for fall. I don't know, it's still very hot here, so it's hard to get my mind in the fall.
So, what is your definition of the end of summer,
I mean,
beginning of fall? Like, what to you is like this is the? Because for me,
really,
it's
it's
kind of
like
like Labor Day.
yeah, like Labor Day, but like really like when the weather drops is when my brain is like, okay, now it's the end of summer. So I mean, it could be like
Global
October.
warming. It could be December.
Exactly.
For
It's
me, it's
hard
kind
to
of like
like,
Labor Day, especially because it's
yeah.
like it's September, like football's starting, like you can put out your fall stuff and it be acceptable. So,
That's a good point with football starting being a good fall indicator.
mhm.
I think too, for like people that have kids in school, like whenever they go back to school, indicates the end of
Yeah,
summer, but we don't have kids in school, so that doesn't really. And also schools start so
in
different
like
everywhere.
early August now.
Well, like for you guys, for us, it doesn't start until after Labor Day. So that's why it's crazy.
Mm,
It's like so different, in different
yeah.
places across the country, like either the beginning of August or after Labor Day. But then
But then
like
you have people who are in year-round schools where they go
true.
like year-round, only three
Yeah.
weeks off. So what's summer to them? They don't know.
That's very true. Or you could just go by like the literal definition of summer and go with the fall equinox. Is that what it's called? Right? September 21st-ish?
Is that when that is?
Isn't that called the fall equinox?
Yeah, but I thought the summer one wasn't until like June. So there's only like 2 months of summer. Like, isn't the spring equinox like late June?
Yeah. September 22nd is the fall equinox.
So by that
So,
definition, end of June to late September is summer.
yes.
Doesn't feel right. To me, it is Memorial Day to Labor Day. That is summer in
Yeah.
my brain. Just do it by holidays.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm on board with that too. All right. Well,
And
glad
then
we solved that crisis.
Labor Day to Halloween is Halloween, and then after Halloween, it's Christmas. And if you want to fight me on this, I don't care. It's my
And
house. I
then
will do what I want.
and then January to March is just depressing.
Yes,
So,
basically, that's when we're all depressed.
yes.
But I do have a recommendation for all of our listeners. So,
Okay.
if you are like the Ebert household and you love true crime and your partner tolerates it, but they love sports, I have the perfect thing for you guys to watch.
I'm ready.
It is called Untold: The Girlfriend That Didn't Exist. So it's about Manti Te'o and his like how he was catfished. They have a bunch of the Untolds that have like a bunch of other sports crimes that now Kevin and
Mm.
I are going to dive into. But it
Hmm.
was so good. It was so good and so heartbreaking, and I want to give him a hug.
Andrew was just telling me he wanted to watch this. I just remembered that, like, before
Yes.
he left to go on his work trip, he's like, "Oh, I want to
Mhm.
watch this thing this weekend," and then we didn't get around to it. But I'm good to know it was good, and we'll put it.
It's like two
We'll
episodes
add
and it's
it.
like an hour each. So it's basically
Yeah,
like a movie. I mean,
yeah,
or like a longer documentary. But I'm sure by the time this comes out, since we're recording a little bit ahead, since we'll be out of town, everyone will have watched it by now. But if you
probably.
haven't, by some chance, it is so good and so heartbreaking. Like it just made me want to cry. And
Yeah,
like the extents this person went through to like, ugh, it is crazy.
yeah,
It is crazy.
that's
But it was
wild.
very good. It was very interesting. Um, and especially if you're someone who has been really mean to Manti Te'o and made fun of him, like I hope you kind of
Go
feel
watch
bad.
it.
Go watch it because
Yeah,
it's hard. It's like hard watching him talk about it. Like, and it was like
yeah.
2009. Like Catfish, the show didn't even exist. Like we weren't FaceTiming people in 2009.
It's such
Like
like an
Skype was
unheard of
barely a
thing
thing.
then.
Like
Yeah.
so. I gotta go watch it because it was very interesting.
Well, that is a very good recommendation for this almost or could be fall-ish podcast, getting
Yeah.
into sports and true
Yeah.
crime and combining it all and
It
all
was
the
like the perfect
interests.
combo, which I like
Yeah.
sports too, but like Kevin
Hmm.
just kind of tolerates true crime.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll watch it if you really want to. Like, he's
Andrew
not,
does not even tolerate it. He just does
yeah.
not.
Like, usually if I'm like, well, there's different things, I'll be like, do you want to watch this documentary with me? He's like,
Hmm.
yeah. And then we never watch it because he's like, I want to watch it too. And I'm like, do you actually? But yeah, so he like finds it interesting, but he's not
Hmm.
like, listen to true crime podcast 8 hours a day like I am.
Yeah, like fully immersed. Sorry if you can hear my birds chirping on my front porch because they're very loud. So
And if you're on Patreon, this is a video episode, and you can see my cool Romy and Michelle's high school reunion cup that Dallas gave me. So,
also, if you were on Patreon watching this video episode, I told Courtney last night that I was going to look presentable today, and then I showed up in my pajamas and didn't even brush my hair. So clearly, I'm just nailing it.
I told Jacqueline I never brush my hair because I have curly hair, so I just kind of look like I always look. I didn't put makeup on because I don't mind putting makeup on. I hate taking makeup off, and I did it last night. I don't want to do it again.
To me, unless I have like legit plans both days, which never happens, like makeup one day. I'm not doing makeup on both days on the weekend.
I've been trying really hard. COVID helped to just like not wear makeup anymore sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I will when I feel like it, and other times I'm like, this is my face. And if it's ugly, it's ugly. Like, guys, we can't fix it. Maybe some Botox someday, but for now, this is what you're getting.
Oh boy. To circle back around, like I'm in a business meeting here, to sports updates. We do have a combined sports true crime update. Matt Arazia, I'm not sure if that's pronounced correctly, but it doesn't really matter. But he was the new Buffalo Bills punter, who was just drafted this year, and he has been released from the team after a civil lawsuit being filed where he gang raped a 17-year-old girl with 2 other people. So.
And it seems pretty bad. He was drafted in the 6th round, which Kevin told me was absolutely unheard of for a punter. Very high. And then like they had a preseason game and they were like, we're just going to sit him out. Like, we don't think it's right to play him when we know something may have happened. And then they cut him from the team the next day because they were like, we're just going to try to investigate, like see what it is, like make sure, this isn't a hoax or whatever. Just make sure it has validity before we just cut him. And it must have, because they cut him. And so I was telling Jacqueline, either the Buffalo Bills have morals or this was really bad. Maybe a little bit of both, but especially we see some NFL teams who keep real shitty people on their teams.
Yeah, it's just the amount of sexual assault, domestic violence among NFL players is just horrific. It really is. I mean,
Deshaun Watson, 25 women, and he gets 11 games.
Yeah. Like what?
Rough.
Yeah.
But I don't really think we have any more updates that we've seen. I was thinking, did you see about the John Benet Ramsey case? How they think there's DNA that could reveal what happened?
I don't
know. I'm talking out my butt because it just came to my head. But there is DNA they're testing that they think could solve it. I don't really know what it's from or anything, but they did say that they think there could be a resolution.
Interesting.
In the case.
Okay. We'll have to keep an eye out on that for sure then.
Which I think we may have that case coming up in the semi-near future.
Yes.
Depends on what you call near future. Semi-near.
What season is it? Because we're figuring out our seasons today.
Definitely winter.
Yes, that one is for sure winter. I don't think there's any. There are some months that can go either way.
On the other side of the equator. Because then if we have like Australia, South American listeners, they're like, what do you mean summer is? They don't even probably know what Memorial Day and Labor Day is. What do you mean that's summer? That's winter for us. So
true. Yeah. So if you do live on the opposite side of the world, let us know what you consider, like what's your holiday, divisions here. Not holiday, season divisions. I don't know. Words are hard.
Oh man. We always say, it's a late night recording but nope, this one's 10 a.m. So
this is
just us.
Yeah. I don't know. My brain should be at prime, got a good night's sleep, got some coffee, my baby slept in. I should be good to go, but I'm still just a hot fucking mess. So it's fine.
That's just life, man. That's like past 25. It's just hot mess central. Yeah, so
for sure.
Okay. So today's case was a listener recommendation. So thank you, Kelly, for recommending this one.
Yes.
And there is kind of 2 stories to this. So for the first one, we used a Knox News article. So on November 26, 1977, 2 teenage boys were hiking near Cherokee Bluffs in Knoxville, Tennessee, when they found the naked torso of a man. His head and missing limbs had been severed and were not found, and the identity of the victim and the murderer are still unknown today. So when the body was found, the medical examiner believed he'd only been dead about 6 to 8 hours, so really not that long. And they also believed the body had been dismembered in an effort to conceal the man's identity, who they thought was in his 30s. So basically, the head and neck had been removed at the shoulders, the hands were severed a few inches above the wrists, and the legs a few inches before the knees. So kind of had that going on. And 2 deep gashes had been sliced across the abdomen, and another wound on the upper arm had been made to cut off a tattoo or a mole or some identifying mark. So at first, investigators believed the body parts had been removed by a chainsaw, so they started looking into connections to a recent unsolved chainsaw murder in Austin, Texas. However, upon further examination, they believed a fine-tooth saw was used, and they dropped the investigation into the connection with the other murder. Which I wonder, because this is such an old case, if that would have changed, if they still think it's a fine-tooth saw, or
That's true. Yeah, there could be
we've come so far
different...
with everything.
Yeah, that is very true. Because who knows? I mean, there's so much evidence that in years past it was oh, this is definitely this, and then now it's oh, maybe not.
Yeah, and can you even 40, 50 long time later?
Yeah, determine for sure. Yeah.
So the man's genitals had also been cut off, so investigators believed it was personal and not just an attempt to hide the man's identity. And
because was, especially if you leave part of the leg, it's not it was cut off at the waist where everything below it was gone. They left part of his legs, but then intentionally also cut off the genitals. So I feel that is
pretty intentional. It feels like. Yeah. I mean, no offense to men, but I don't think you're really going to be identified by your dick unless there is something very, very abnormal about it.
It is possible. You never know. But yeah,
maybe you have a micro penis, or you have a really distinctive mole or something very weird on it. But
yeah,
most dicks kind of look the same.
Yeah.
So rope was wrapped around the torso, and there were bloodstains on the ground that had been disturbed. So the man was likely killed elsewhere and moved to this hiking trail. The family of 54-year-old Paul Wayne Hurst reported him missing shortly after the news aired, a story about this found body. So Hurst was a former Golden Gloves welterweight champion. That was hard for me to say, apparently.
That is a tongue twister. Is that the right word?
Welterweight. Okay. A lot of G's, a lot of W's. Here we go. So he was from Maryville, who exercised every day, never drank alcohol, and was in excellent physical shape. He was a well-respected boxing coach who had founded a youth boxing program and was dedicated to mentoring young athletes. And he also worked as a chemical operator at the K25 plant in Oak Ridge. So a week into the investigation, the Knox County Medical Examiner's Office compared spinal x-rays from the torso to Hurst. So Hurst had been treated for a back injury a few years before and had some distinctive characteristics on his x-ray. So using 15 matching characteristics and a matching O negative blood type, Dr. Robert Lash determined the x-rays were a match and identified the murdered torso as belonging to Paul Wayne Hurst. So a few months later, in January of 1978, more than 100 people had been interviewed and $15,000 in reward money had been collected, but there were still no leads, which $15,000 in 1978 is quite a bit of money.
Yeah, that's a pretty big collection there.
Mm-hmm. So in September, Hurst's oldest son, Paul Hurst Jr., who went by Sonny, obtained a court order to have the remains exhumed and examined by his own team of investigators. So Sonny's team included 2 private investigators, the Hurst family physician, and Blount County coroner Roy White. So after their examination, they came forward and said that, quote, beyond the shadow of a doubt, the torso did not belong to Paul Wayne Hurst. They said that Hurst had surgery on varicose veins in the thighs 10 years earlier, and there was no evidence of that in the body that was found. So they're like, he had this surgery, how are we not seeing that? And the body also appeared to have a hernia operation, which Hurst had never had. And the team also said there was no smallpox vaccination scar on the torso's left arm, even though Hurst had one. And most surprisingly, the torso had 2 nipples on the right side, while Hurst did not. So they're like, these aren't really lining up that well. So the Knox County officials were confident that the torso was Hurst's. So they called in the famous forensic anthropologist, Dr. Bill Bass, at the University of Tennessee to review the x-rays as well. So he confirmed, based on the x-rays, that the original ruling by Dr. Lash with the Knox County Medical Examiner's Office, and he said this torso does belong to Hurst. So,
which I am just so confused. Like, the hernia operation, I mean, maybe there's kind of some, maybe it's not exact one way or the other for that. The smallpox scar, that could have been one of the things that was like cut out of the torso. But the nipple, how do you have confusion on, oh, well, he has 3 nipples and this guy didn't, but it's still him?
yeah.
I'm very confused on that.
And I do wonder, like, how common was the back surgery he had? Because, I mean, most of our spines look the same. So
True.
could someone else have also had this spinal surgery? Because it's something that happens, often, like a hernia surgery or a varicose vein surgery that could happen. And
that's true, because that's really the only, like, distinctive thing that they have to identify it as Paul, was using the x-rays from the surgery.
And the blood type matching. But, I mean, O negative, I think, is the most common.
Yeah.
Right? O negative is the most common, right? Or is it O positive? The O's in general, I know, are very common.
There we go.
So with all of this conflicting information, both Knox County and Blount County pursued their own investigations. So they're like, we're just going to split up. You investigate that it is him. We're going to investigate it's not him.
We'll come to a conclusion either way here. It's all good.
It'll be fine. Which I also wonder, like, did Blount County have any jurisdiction? Like, how? I guess they had nothing going on. So they're just like, I guess we'll investigate this murder that we have no jurisdiction in.
Well, I wonder, because he lived in Maryville. So, like, maybe because, but I mean, he wasn't found there. So it's like, I don't think they would have any jurisdiction, but maybe that's why they had an interest in the case, because like he did live there, and it sounds like he was like a pretty like prominent person then. So that would explain like their interest, but
they're like, we're gonna put funds towards this, even though like it's not
technically ours.
But I like wonder if they were like, oh, it's this person and this person killed him. Like, could you charge him? Because that would have to be the Knox County DA, right?
That's true. Yeah. So maybe they're just like, oh, if we do our own independent investigation, maybe we can come up with whatever, information and then present it to them.
County and hopefully.
Could be.
So Sonny Hurst also continued his investigation with his team. Since the identity of the victim, the crime scene, and the cause of death were all unknown, all 3 teams had very little to go on, and the case went cold. The torso was reburied at Sherwood Memorial Gardens in Alcoa, and the grave still has no name on it today. So Reba Hurst, who's Paul's ex-wife, was the last person to see him alive. So they had divorced 2 months before Paul's disappearance, but they still lived together in their apartment in Maryville. So Reba said they'd gone to dinner together on November 22nd, and Paul had taken that week off of work and said he was planning a trip somewhere, although he never told her where. So when Reba returned home from work the next day, Paul was gone, and Paul's brother was the one that reported him missing on November 28th when he didn't return to work. So the 28th was the Monday following Thanksgiving, and the body was found the Saturday following Thanksgiving. So during a search of the Hurst home, detectives seized a saw, hatchet, mattress, and box springs, and a .25 caliber shell casings from under Paul's bed. So the FBI analyzed the evidence, but there was no conclusive findings. And no gun was found, even though they found the shell casings. And during their investigation, they also learned that Paul had been dating frequently since separating with his wife, Reba. So the Knox County Sheriff's Office archived investigative file received an unconfirmed report that Paul Hurst's younger son, Steve Hurst, had been upset about his father's girlfriends and had bugged the home phone at Reba's insistence to eavesdrop on his conversations. So, a lot of family drama.
Yeah, very interesting.
So in 1985, a confidential informant came forward and said he'd worked at a local junior college with Steve Hurst and another man named Richard Russell. So Russell was a heavy drinker who bragged about being a mercenary in Vietnam. And the informant said he had been out drinking with Russell one night when he said he killed Paul Hurst for sleeping with his girlfriend, which I get drunk a lot and I just don't start confessing to murders.
Nope, I don't think that's ever happened to me.
No, can't relate. So the case file shows the informant was interviewed by the Knox County Sheriff's Office and the FBI, but there were no details about any further investigation into Richard Russell, which I guess if there's really no other evidence, it's like, it's been almost 10 years at this point. Like,
yeah, and it's like, and this information is coming from a person that maybe they deemed not reliable. So it's like, who really knows, what happened with that?
So the lead detective on the case for Knox County was James Smitty Smith, and he died in 1988. And in 1983, he told a News Sentinel that the unsolved case left him many sleepless nights, and he put 6,000 miles on a new car just chasing down leads. Because, especially in the beginning, like, they interviewed over 100 people. Like, they tried really hard, but, like, there was just nothing.
Yeah.
Steve Hurst died in 2002, and Reba Hurst died in 2009. So Sonny Hurst was previously an insurance adjuster, but he became a licensed private detective and spent years looking into his father's disappearance and possible death. He followed some leads that said his father had been seen in Florida and Louisiana as a part of an organized crime group, but he never found him. So Sonny Hurst eventually decided that the torso likely did belong to his father. He's like, it probably was him. Although he does not know for sure who killed his father, he says he has suspicions, and it likely had to do with his girlfriends. He said he questioned his mother himself and that he stayed with her as she was dying just in case she gave like a deathbed confession, because he's like, maybe she did it.
Yeah.
But she never gave like any confession, and he doesn't believe like she had anything to do with it. I also wonder if they have like any DNA from him that they could like do a genealogy thing and like test it against Sonny just to like confirm it. I know you have to exhume the body a second time and they're real hesitant to do that, but like with technology today, like maybe just try if it's possible, like test it, like see if it's him.
But yeah, you would think there would be some way at this point to identify the body, but also I'm sure there are so many, not that Knoxville's like huge for murders, but I'm sure there are also so many unsolved cases that it's like, you got to have the funding and people like pushing for this. And if, most of his family is dead at this point, or the ones that are alive are like, yeah, I'm sure this was him. And they're not really pursuing, pursuing a case at that point. Or if you have people that were found since then that their killer could still be out and about, it's like, well, those are more of a priority versus someone from the 70s that it's like, well, their killer at this point, who knows if they're still, obviously
Knox
they
County
still could be alive,
confident that it was him. So they're like, why would we exhume him and do all this testing when we know it's him? So
I did think it was interesting though that like they said for sure it was him, but yet he was still buried in an unnamed grave. Like I thought that was interesting. They didn't put his name on it.
Yeah, that is very odd and just like such a sad case. Like what happened to him, and it's just like crazy. Like where's his head and like his hands and his feet and
like that's the thing. Like
genitals, like where is it?
Yeah, and obviously this is the 70s, so forensics was a lot less advanced at that point and everything. Because I feel like now if something like this happened, like going to that length with the body, like you would leave something behind. Like it wouldn't be unsolved, I feel like.
Your cell phone would ping at a tower and you'd know like
but yeah. Crazy. So during our internet deep dive researching this case, we did find that there was another torso murder that occurred in Knoxville a decade after this one. So they're probably not connected, but when we were researching the first one and then this one came up, it's like, well, it's kind of a short one anyway, so we'll just go ahead and put this one in here as well. So our sources for this one were WBIR and Knox News again. So on October 27th, 1986, teenager Dwayne Montgomery was hanging out at Mead's Quarry when he discovered a human torso. So today, Mead's Quarry is a popular area of the Imes Nature Center, but in the 80s, it was just like a rock quarry where people just dumped their trash. Like it wasn't a popular hangout place like it is today. And when Dwayne first saw it, he thought it was a mannequin because, again, people are dumping a bunch of trash here, so it wouldn't be unusual to find a mannequin, in the rubble and everything. But as he got closer, he was horrified to discover that it was actually a human body. So detectives could tell the saw had been used to dismember the body. And although another torso had been found the decade before like this level of violence was unusual for this area. So like this is a pretty big deal to find not just a body, but a body in this manner. And then it got worse too. So a fisherman found the victim's head floating in a plastic bag in the Holston River, and a suitcase with intestines and genitals were found in North Knoxville.
Ooh,
And then
that is a bad discovery.
yeah.
Not what you want to discover on your fishing trip or in a suitcase that you think is going to have like some good treasure.
Yeah, you're like, oh, maybe someone left some jewelry in here. Maybe we got
maybe
some
there's
cash.
some money,
Maybe,
a nice new
oh,
shirt.
this is
Nope.
not.
Nope.
And other body parts and the tools used in dismembering the body started showing up around Knox County and Anderson County. So, like, at this time, they're just like random body parts appearing all over the city. Like, I can't even imagine that kind of like terror that everyone was feeling.
Yeah, like watching the news every night and being like, another body part. Oh,
yes.
Another body part. Like, ooh. Yeah, I don't like that. And crazy that I've never heard about this.
Right? Same.
Like, my parents were in Knoxville around this time. Like, they were like 20s, 20s. How did you not tell me about this?
I know. I want to, I'm sure my dad will text me after he hears this episode like he always does. So I can't wait to hear if he knew about either of these. So because they did have the victim's head, the investigators were able to create a composite sketch of the victim. And that, along with dental records, did lead to the identification of 29-year-old William Robert Johnston. So Johnston lived with 36-year-old Larry Dennis Loveday and 43-year-old Dorothy Evelyn Fritz in an apartment on Washington Pike in North Knoxville. So after interviewing the couple, it didn't take long for investigators to have enough evidence to arrest them for the murder of William Robert Johnston. So according to court documents, early in the morning on October 22nd, Loveday struck Johnston in the head with an ice pick while he was sleeping. He then tied a plastic bag around Johnston's head and hit him with a hammer hatchet until he died.
That's brutal.
Yeah, like, that is really rough. And also, when I was reading back through these notes, I Googled hammer hatchet because I'm like, did I mean to put one or the other? But it's just like a handheld hatchet, basically. Like a short little, like it's like the length, like the...
Like it looks like a hammer, but it's a hatchet?
Yes, exactly.
Like instead of having a hammerhead, it has like a hatchet.
It's a hatchet head. Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
So I guess just for little like yard work, something. So Loveday and Fritz then drove Johnston's car around to multiple places to purchase garbage bags, a saw, and plywood. And they left Johnston's body on the piece of plywood in their kitchen for several days before they dismembered it and started spreading the body parts around Knoxville. Just gross. So in April of 1988, Evelyn Fritz pleaded guilty to a second-degree murder charge in exchange for her testimony against Loveday. So investigators believed that Johnston was killed out of jealousy because of a love triangle between the three roommates. So I guess they argued over who was going to or had to have sex with Evelyn. I'm not sure which one, but there was some arguments regarding both of them having sex with her. They also argued over money, food, and who got to watch what on TV in the apartment. So a lot of things going on in this roommate situation.
I mean, roommates are hard. Like, living with your partner is hard enough, and then like a roommate who you didn't commit your whole life to is hard.
Yeah. So both Fritz and Loveday did have physical disabilities, and Johnston was a larger man. So the investigators are like, okay, maybe this is why this happened. So Loveday did confess to the murder and said that he didn't want to do all of that to the body, but he had no other way to carry it. Like, he's like, I physically couldn't get the body out of my apartment. That's why I had to dismember it. And then, I mean, obviously disposing of it in multiple places was trying not to get caught, but that wasn't, you could have put them all in the same place if it was truly just about not being able to physically move it.
Makes me think of a case coming up that also has some dismemberment, not a like a theme we were trying to go with, but like the guy was just kind of like, well, I had a big problem and I had to make it into a smaller problem. It was like, gross. Okay, so I mean, I guess you're like, I can't carry it, so gotta make it into a small problem. It's like, ooh.
Yeah. So Loveday was convicted of first-degree murder, and the prosecution chose not to seek the death penalty. So Larry Loveday died in prison in 2000, and Evelyn Fritz was paroled in 2002 and then died a decade later. So Loveday would have been 27 and Fritz would have been 34 at the time of the first torso murder, but I mean, it's not impossible that they were responsible for that murder, but there was never anything to like tie them to that. Like the other body parts in the first one were never found. I would assume if you're sentenced to life in prison, you would confess to the other murder if you also did it, maybe not. But again, there wasn't really anything that like tied them to that. But if you like do some internet deep dive, some people are like, well, I mean, they were just a decade apart. Like they could have been responsible for both. But this one was a pretty specific reason. I mean, it's not a reason to murder someone, but it wasn't a random killing kind of thing. Like it seems like would have been the first one if it was Paul, because they had no connection to him. So it's most likely that Paul's, if this person was in fact Paul, was related to maybe some of his girlfriends, maybe a revenge thing, maybe something to do with his boxing.
I mean, maybe
don't know.
He had a relationship with Evelyn Fritz and they did it. But I would think if that was the case, then we would hear more of like finding the body parts and the weapons in the first one. Like, I feel like your first murder is going to be real messy and you're probably going to get caught for it.
True.
And if it's like there's no evidence, we did not find the body parts, we are not finding murder weapons, like that doesn't feel like, which makes me wonder, like, could Paul's death have just been random? Or whoever the first torso was? Like, what if there was someone who was just traveling through? I mean, look at Sam Little, just traveling through, picking victims at random, you know, and then could have just done this, known how to do it. Like, I don't know how many, I know there was the one in Austin, but like how many other like torso murders are there? Like there's the Cleveland one, like did the guy just go on vacation? Like, you know,
I mean,
like,
could be.
There's, I mean, that's probably so many serial killers we don't know about.
That is very true. And especially at that time where there was no connection between even cities sometimes, but especially states and, you know, other parts of the country if you're traveling through, like you said. But a torso murder is a very specific, like, it's not just a shooting or a stabbing or like, this is a very, like, you spend a lot of time with this body and dismembering it and disposing of it. And
it's very messy. Like, I hate to sound kind of like harsh, but I mean, like cutting up a body, there's a lot of blood in our bodies and stuff. So it's like, how did you get away with it? Like, how did no one hear anything, know anything? Like, wild.
Very odd, both of them. Very, and like we said with the second one, it seems to be there was a reason for the dismemberment in that manner, versus the first one seems to be more intentional, that it was done, you know, in an effort to conceal the identity, the cutting off of either the smallpox scar or a tattoo or, you know, whatever it may be, especially the genitals too. Like something's very distinctive about that, I feel like. But yeah, just super horrific for both victims. William Robert Johnston and then possibly Paul Wayne Hurst, not completely confirmed though.
Yeah.
So those are the two torso murders of Knoxville. Again, thank you, Kelly, for the suggestion. Happened to find the second one as we were doing a research on the first one. But yeah, crazy times.
If you somehow lived in Knoxville and know what happened to Paul, I mean, come forward.
Yeah.
Write an anonymous letter. Not to us. I mean, you can, but we're going to forward it to the police.
Just, send it to the authorities who know what they're doing.
Please
we don't know what the hell we're doing.
Please don't send us crazy letters. But
please do not send us a letter confessing to a murder, because Courtney and I would not know how to handle that, and we would just end the podcast, and this would be the end of that.
Straight to the FBI. I don't even know if the FBI is who I should go to, but I'd be like,
someone
President Joe Biden, somebody send me a letter.
I am very excited. Like I said, not excited. Looking forward to discussing this with my dad and seeing if he heard about these at the time, because these, I mean, we're very close to where we lived and where he lived at the time. So interested to see.
I mean, it is possible too if it was just like there wasn't really the 24-hour news cycle, and like you might miss a paper, you might miss the news, like you might go a long time without hearing about it. I mean, in today's world with Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Reddit. Like we hear about everything that happens.
Yeah.
We hear about every dog that shits on the side of the road and their owner doesn't pick it up, like we know it
That's
all.
a good point.
we can DNA test it. They get fined. Like it's an advanced world.
Yeah, I worked for when I worked for apartments in North Carolina, we had that program. And so you had to like DNA test your dog when you moved in, and like we had to like send it off to a company that like stored it. And then when we found dog poop on the property, our maintenance guy had to like put the poop in this like little tube and like mix it with the stuff and like mail it off. And then we got a DNA match to who it belonged to. And then you were fined like $300 or something crazy because it cost us a bunch of money to, have it sent off. So, but I mean, it worked.
We give you the dog bags and you could have just picked it up.
Exactly. It's not that hard. I was walking my dog last week and I didn't realize that I ran out of poop bags, and she like pooped in my neighbor's yard, which we live in a small neighborhood. So like it doesn't take me long to walk back to my house, but like very loudly was like, "Oh no, Rosie, we have to go home and get a bag and come right back." I was like, I didn't want someone to like
coming back for the poop.
Because like if someone was outside, I would have like said something, but there was nobody there. But I'm like, what if someone can see me that I can't see them? And they're like, well, we're coming right back. Let me. So just in case anyone saw me, they were mad that I was leaving my dog's poop because I was going to get a bag and coming right back. But
we promise.
This just, I don't know where we're going with all this. Courtney, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week is last night, Kevin and I went to this concert and it was good. It could have been better. But my favorite part of the whole show is one of the opening bands had a Jacqueline lookalike. She looks just like Jacqueline.
My doppelganger. It is crazy, guys.
It was wild. Like watching her sing and like play guitar, I was like, that looks like Jacqueline. Like she had your hair, like the same hair color even, and like hair texture, and the way she like wore it is a way I could see you wearing your hair. And it was just like, and then I looked them up on Instagram, and even looking at her close, I was like, she looks like she could be Jacqueline's sister. Like there's a lot of similarities.
It was very odd. Like maybe I'm just living this double life that you don't know anything about, Courtney.
Well, you're a great singer in your double life.
Thank you so much.
You have a really pretty voice. But yeah, so the show, Kevin was a little disappointed. I mean, the headliner is 23 years old, so she's very, very young.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of stage presence, kind of awkward. Like you could kind of interact a little bit more, but overall it was fun. I mean, I love going to concerts, and the Mill and Mine in Knoxville is beautiful. It's Kevin's first time being there. He was absolutely astounded that a 16-ounce Miller Lite was $6. And I was like, yeah, I know. It's amazing.
That is pretty nice.
For a concert, like they're usually charging you like $12 for a cup. So yeah, that was super fun. Always nice to kind of have some time with Kevin, just the two of us, when we're normally just running around like banshees all the time.
That's nice.
Yeah, that is my perk of the week. Jacqueline, what is your perk of the week?
Courtney and I are at very different points in our lives, because my perk of the week was also my yesterday, but it's very different from what Courtney and Kevin did yesterday. But so my daughter has been obsessed with bears lately, like all things bears. She will point out, I don't even know how she finds these bears. Like at my aunt's house, there's like this tiny bear statue in like this shelf of a bunch of other statues, and Millie's like, bear, and I don't know how she even see. So she's obsessed with bears. And then yesterday,
finds them.
Yes, and she will point it out. Anything that remotely resembles a bear. I have a gingerbread man on my refrigerator that she thinks is a bear. So every time she's eating, she's like pointing to it and wants the bear. And I'm like, that's not a bear, but okay. But so yesterday, Andrew was like, we should take her to Build-A-Bear. And I was like, yes, I'm so excited. So we went to Build-A-Bear, and you like walk in and there's like the giant bear. I mean, she could have just stood there all day with that bear and would have been having the time of her life. Like I didn't even need to buy her a bear. She just wanted to stand there with the giant bear.
Did you get her birthday bear?
No, we forgot to go. We're going to have to go next year.
Because you have to go in the month, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we forgot. Right. I know. I forgot to go last year. But next year, when she's 2, we're definitely going to get her $2 birthday bear. So yes, then we finally like got her away from the giant bear, which I think she wanted to like pick her up because she kept saying up. And I'm like, the bear can't pick you up, Millie.
The bear needs to pick me up.
She's like her face just like looking at
God, let's hope she never sees a real bear.
Oh no. Oh no.
This bear's just like
okay, I'll pick you up. So we finally like took her over, and she got to like pick out her little bear. But then God love her heart. When they had to stuff it, I mean, she had a complete meltdown because
I saw the picture and her poor pitiful face. I'm like, oh,
it was so like Andrew and I were laughing. We were trying not to laugh. I was like, we're gonna give you the bear right back, honey. But she is like sobbing, like melting down because she's like, I just picked out this bear and now you took it away. Like, I just wanted this limp bear. I don't even need it stuffed.
Who needs stuffing? Not me.
so we got it stuffed. I wanted her to get clothes so badly because I'm like, I will buy whatever you want for this bear. Like, I'm gonna let you pick out anything. She just wanted the naked bear. She wouldn't even look at the clothes. I even like went around and I was like, I'll pick out like 4 outfits. I'm like, maybe it's too overwhelming. There's too much stuff. So like I picked out 4 outfits. Yeah, I laid them down, did not want anything to do with them, just walked off with her naked bear. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're not doing accessories.
Naked bear.
And then when we went to check out and the lady's like, okay, I just need to, and her face crumpled and like her eyes like welled with tears. And like she didn't like actually cry, but she was like about to, and the lady's like, here, I have scissors on my little thing. She's like, I just gotta snip it. I don't even need to take the bear. I just need to take the tag off.
I just need to take the tag off. And then she like, probably sees that quite often, especially like with younger kids. Exactly. Who finally get it. Like, you can't take it away from me.
And then she was like, I'm so sorry. Let me get you a sticker. So she went and got her a bear sticker because she felt so bad.
Oh my gosh.
So the pictures crack me up because it's like her like excitement and then her sobbing. And then she's like in her stroller with her bear and she's like looks like she's terrified that someone's still going to take her bear. And she
the picture, did not let go. I didn't mean to laugh, but I was like,
I laughed so hard. It's so funny. So she carried the bear around the entire, it took us forever to get out because it's like a big outdoor mall and we got lost leaving. I mean, we were just walking around anyway, but she did not like drop the bear a single time. Like she just like clutched it. And
she's never letting go of that bear.
No, she slept with it.
She's going to be 25 one day and be like meeting her like a new boyfriend, girlfriend, and be like, this is my bear I sleep with every single night. It's gonna be like ratted, tatted, falling apart. And she's like, no, this is my bear.
This is bear. I told Andrew too, I'm like, I always think about the things that like I have now from when I was a child. And I'm like, the things that we're getting her now, I'm like, what's gonna be like the thing that sticks that she has, because everyone has those things like from their childhood. So like each time like we get her something new and special. I have a little
polar bear that I named Chili.
Exactly.
He's over here somewhere. I think.
So I'm like, what is going to be like the thing that she like, but right now we're all about the bear. Slept with it last night, wanted to hold it all morning. I mean, it's adorable. That was a very long story. I'm sorry. This was a shorter episode. I know you guys wanted to hear all about my baby's first Build-A-Bear experience because, I mean, it was the highlight of, my month. So I don't know about her, but I enjoyed it a lot.
You've been asking Andrew to take her to Build-A-Bear since she was 6 weeks. How old was she when I came to see you?
6 weeks.
6 weeks, right?
Can you believe that man would not let, he's like, she doesn't need a bear. But then it was his idea. And then I was like, oh yeah, especially because she's like so obsessed with bears. You were like,
I'm in the car. I'm in the car. We don't say less. And
it was so funny too because like she went down for a late nap because she slept in yesterday, and so we were just like hanging out and we're like, oh, let's go do something this afternoon, and we were like talking about different things that we could do, and we decided on going to like an outdoor brewery in the city, and then Andrew brought that up and we were both like, yep, that's it, and I'm like,
that's it, that's where we're going.
We're officially parents now. Like we just tossed out the brewery to go to Build-A-Bear, but yeah, so we were very anxiously awaiting for her to wake up from her nap. And then she finally woke up and like I heard her and I was like, before I could like Andrew had her dressed and her hair brushed and like we were so ready to go.
You guys in the beginning were more excited than she was.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, I just wanted the clothes and she wanted nothing to do with it.
I know. She was like, I want a naked bear. I know. Bears are naked.
She's like, bears don't wear, she looks at pictures of bears all the time. So she's like, bears don't wear clothes. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry for that long-winded story. If you want to tell us all about your bears, if you lived in Knoxville and you remember these stories, please don't confess to the murder, but please do, but not to us. But anyway, tell us all those things on Caffeinated Crimes Pod on Instagram, right? Yes. On Facebook at Caffeinated Crimes Podcast. We're on Twitter at Caff Crimes Pod. That's CAFF Crimes Pod. You can email us at caffeinatedcrimespod@gmail.com. If you are so inclined, if you want to throw a little bit of money our way every month, we are on patreon.com/caffeinatedcrimes, where we do have monthly bonus episodes as well as monthly unedited video episodes. So if you want to see our faces during this whole story, if you want to hear what we cut out because we messed up our words.
See my cup, which I'm not going to say what it says. Can you? It's backwards, isn't it?
No, I can.
Is it back? I can't tell. It might
It's
be
not
backwards.
it's not backwards, but I can't read the font very well because my screen is small.
Yeah. Okay. But if you're watching the video, you can
Yes.
read it.
I think they can. Yeah, they can pause it. You can see Courtney's cup. You can see my cat who's been chilling in the background this whole time. All that fun stuff for like $5 a month, I think is what it is. But as little as
Mhm.
$3, you also get ad-free episodes. So if you're hearing the ads that we have now, which is great, that we're getting a little bit of money to put back into our quality, you also get ad-free episodes if you are on Patreon. So
Yep. Go do all that. Come hang out with us. It's super fun. If you'll also give us 5 stars on Apple or Spotify, just kind of helps us get noticed. People find the podcast. But in the meantime, go have a cup of coffee.
and don't commit a crime.